Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Creator Quest. Today we have a very special guest on our podcast. We're talking with Ashley, the CEO and creative visionary behind this incredible new revolutionary app, the Neptune app. There's a lot of cool features and benefits, very unique to this platform specifically, and I'm excited to dive into them with her. It's also very cool because as you know, I create on a lot of platforms and I enjoy creating in general, getting to know things. And so this was very, very interesting and exciting for me personally. The app is in beta right now, so we're going to find out what's going on with everything along the way, the process, where the vision and ideas kind of came from, and get to know a little bit about Ashley as well. She's a creator of over 20 years. An incredible musician and influencer along many different platforms. She's also created videos and many just forms of content. So she's pretty well versed in this, as well as has a very solid team of awesome people that have kind of helped further and progress this app the way it has been. The thing I find really cool about this, and we're going to talk about it in the video, is just how interactive the community and the Discord is. It just starts at the top, and there's some really good people that are developing this app that are very transparent, very willing to engage in community, and the Discord has shown that by growing as rapidly as it has. Like I say, I'm very excited about this. We're going to jump into the interview now and talk to Ashley. Thank you all for being here, and please enjoy. I like to go through and just get to know kind of like what is your favorite influence, or like a big influence for you? What is something that kind of pushed the needle when it came to your creativity?
Oh man. Okay, so I think one of the biggest things from a very young age, I was always the kid that was up early on Saturday mornings, much to my parents' chagrin. And so my dad would, sleepy-eyed pad out to the living room and sit me in the recliner, and he would turn on PBS. And what was always on that early in the morning was Bob Ross.
Ah,
And so I would sit, and I was transfixed. Like I was like 4 or 5. I was not old enough to be like, oh, this is very interesting art. I was like 4 or 5, and I couldn't get enough of Bob Ross. And so I think that for me was like so cool to watch him take a canvas that had nothing on it, because he'd always start with a blank canvas, and by the end of the episode he had created something magical. He'd
yeah.
created this other world that you just felt like you could step right into. And so for me, that's kind of what sparked a lot of my creativity at an early age. And it sounds so cheesy and so cliche, but Bob Ross's whole thing was that there are no mistakes. Like
Yeah.
everything that you do, whether it's unintentional or whether it's intentional, can just be written into your story. It can be written into your painting. And Lord knows I've made my share of mistakes
Oh, yeah.
and trip ups and failings and things like that. But it's, and I'm not like this old sage quite yet. I'm getting there. But, it's been cool to kind of look back on this first part of my life and see some of those mistakes and mishaps and how they've been sort of beautifully interwoven into, this creative tapestry of my life.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's plenty to learn from always. And the people say you fail, 99% of the time, but that 1% you
Hmm.
succeed. That's the launching point and everything. I mean, if you're learning from everything along the way, I think you got something special brewing for sure. But it's just so true. Like, I mean, I feel like I've already lived 3 lives and I still have a lot
Yeah.
more living to go. It's just crazy how that always happens.
It's so
Um,
true though.
Yeah, Bob Ross is great though. Yeah, well, inspiration kind of comes from everywhere.
Hmm.
Just things that you wouldn't expect and things that kind of give you that comfort and that drive. And yeah, it's cool. It's always cool to see, like, the human element behind these apps. There's just too much,
Yeah.
that's just, oh, we purchased this app from somebody and now it's, some corporate run
Right.
thing. And I know y'all are trying to stay away from that as much as possible, which I think is really cool too. What do you,
Yeah, it's been interesting actually
yeah,
navigating all of that. It's tough. Money's got to come from somewhere,
yeah,
but oftentimes the people that have it have their own agenda in mind.
right. Yeah. I feel like a lot of that's usually kind of out of sight, out of mind, to pay for it and then we'll just run it however, usually into the
Yeah.
ground. So it's nice that
Yeah.
there's that kind of balance there between we want to do things our way and but we also want to, kind of do what's best for the app and the creators in general.
Mhm.
Is there any kind of like unique hurdle or challenge you have faced recently with the development of the app that's kind of been kind of eaten away or?
I mean, to be honest, it's the financial aspect
Mm.
of it, and it's like you said, a lot of these companies who've brought forth social media platforms, whether it was Facebook, Zuck got, what was it, like $350,000 from his parents to
Yeah.
start the app, and TikTok was acquired, our TikTok acquired Musically, and so they kind of had this built-in infrastructure and and they paid like $1 billion after that to acquire a bunch of users. Like it just it all feels very rigged. It all
Yeah.
feels like a big setup. And
Yep.
so when you're sort of like, well, how do I make this from scratch? And it's like we have the talent, we have the skills, we have the infrastructure. At this point, the only thing holding us back is the fact that none of us on the team are Nepo babies. None of
Yeah.
us have that Silicon Valley pedigree. None of us are super well connected to investors and VCs, venture capitalists. Like we just don't have the same pedigree. And I think while in almost every aspect that works in our favor, because so many people have been drawn to us specifically because of that. They're like, you guys don't feel corporate. I've never seen this much of a CEO.
Right.
I've never seen a CEO go live and put on her makeup and answer people's questions, or do a live in the Discord and answer people's questions and talk to people. There also comes the drawbacks of that. And
Right.
that means that when we say we're bootstrapped, that means, we're currently in the middle of beta testing this platform. We're going to have to pay the bill for this next month.
Yeah.
And so we're starting a Substack so that we can afford to pay for that, because right now, everything, every cost, every expense is coming out of the pockets of our team. And that's just not something we can continue to do forever.
Yeah, for sure. There's definitely that, is a huge hurdle and everything. And I think the integrity of the app, though, speaks for itself with that, too. I mean, you could easily say, like, oh, we can partner with these people and take this or whatever, but that just kind of, just falls in line with everybody else. So I
Yeah.
think that's definitely something that creators will appreciate a lot more going forward. And especially when they see what is being developed and the just the drive behind it. Yeah, I think the transparency and everything, like you were saying, I mean, just being such a visible CEO and a visible team in
Hmm.
general. I've been in the Discord for as long as I even have known about I mean, weeks at this point. Um, the watch parties, if it just feels like a community. There's a lot of question and answer. There's a lot of people that can kind of get together and hang out, do whatever. It feels very much like an actual creator driven community. And I say that from experience too. Like, it's not like
Right.
I've been in even small developers discords where it's kind of like, hey, if you have questions, we'll answer them, but it's usually
Right.
like a call and response versus a back and forth. Whereas in this Discord, it definitely feels like way more of a back and forth where both sides, from the newest people that join to the people that have been there forever, it feels very much
Hmm.
cohesive and inclusive. And that just kind of speaks volumes to me. I mean, I'm a person who mainly streams. I had zero plan or idea what I was going to do when I got into this field. YouTube was something I always wanted to do. And it was just one of those things where,
Right.
like, I had an idea of the things I kind of wanted to do. And
Hmm.
like, these other apps like Instagram, the Twitter stuff, TikTok, it was never really anything in the front of my mind. And for me personally, like, this has energized me to be more mindful of those apps. And when Neptune comes out, I'm going to be on that a lot because it just feels kind of like I mean, I know we talk about this, but it just feels like I am in control of that. The customization, the top six sounds awesome, just the whole
Yeah.
vibe. And I think the energy around it is going to create some waves, let alone the actual app itself, that I would love to get into talking about. Actually, now I appreciate you
Yeah.
giving me a little background there too. It's just it's just nice to get to know who's really behind these apps and things like that.
Totally.
I want to start. I'm on the Neptune website, and I'll have it all linked in here, everybody, if you want to check that out. Also, if we're doing this on Twitch, I'll have the command and everything with the links in it. But the website's very informative. It's digestible, quick hit information, which I love because, I mean, you could have paragraphs and paragraphs of stuff, and who wants to filter through all that? So this is excellent.
Good.
Yeah, I am somebody that gets really all over the place pretty easily. So the no algorithmic gatekeeping is always the one that I don't understand an algorithm to save my life. Like, it's just something that I've never been able to figure any of that stuff out. I just throw something
Yeah.
out there and hope it goes somewhere. So this is interesting. What is the no algorithmic gatekeeping? Like, what's the drive behind that? What is it going to look like at Neptune versus other apps?
Yeah, so I think this is something that's really an interesting conversation because there's entire accounts on social media, as I'm sure there will be on Neptune as well, to figuring out the algorithm. And in essence, what the algorithm is, it's a massive math equation. I am not really a math kind of girl, but
Hmm.
applied math like this, I like because it makes sense to me. It's not just like, cosine tangent. Like it's
Yeah,
very
yeah.
applicable to me. Like I get it. So I actually worked on the algorithm this last weekend with a couple of members of the dev team and like wrote out really specific things that I want to make sure are in the algorithm that matter to me. And so, one of those things being that creators can take a break when they want to for a week, 2 weeks at a time, and come back and not be penalized by the algorithm.
Hmm.
So, one of the things that these platforms write into their big math equation that essentially decides how videos are seen, how they get pushed out to the different pools, is a time decay on creators, right? To say we want to keep people on the app as much as possible because when they're on the app, they're spending money. That's more money for the platform. Now, obviously, we have to make money too.
Yeah.
We've got to keep the lights on, but I think what we've seen so much from social media in the last few years is this rapid decline. There's this like correlation between like this massive rise in the amount of money that the social media makes. Like I think TikTok did something like $18 billion last year.
Aha.
More money than anyone ever needs to make.
Right.
And at the same time that this continues to go up, what's going down is the mental health of creators. The creator economy has become this endless rat race. And so by removing that pressure of of us saying you guys have to make us $18 billion a year, get on the app, make your stuff, get your
Yeah.
money, like we're allowing them more control. But in terms of the algorithm specifically, you know, we'll be pretty open and honest about our algorithm. I think that's been the most frustrating piece of everything for a lot of creators is they feel like they start trending in the algorithm and then it's almost like a weird scramble
Yeah.
where the platform says, we're going to change it up. We got to keep people hustling. We can't have too many winners. We got to narrow it in. And it just I think there's an aspect of that where I think in the beginning it probably worked well and it kept creators on their toes. But I think there's a big difference between keeping creators on their toes, giving them a challenge, giving them something to beat, and then creating a system that feels unwinnable.
Hmm.
And I think that's where people get discouraged because a lot of these content creators depend on these platforms for their livelihood. And so at what cost to
Right.
them, to their mental health then are they trying to figure out this algorithm because their life literally depends on it? It's just this weird circle.
Yeah. It takes the original design of any of these platforms away, which is like we're creating something. We want to be
Hmm.
displaying our passion and exploring passions and things like that on it. We want to push our art. I mean, we want to do what we want to do. So, when
Hmm.
you're told, oh, we actually need all of this done, or we have to hit these quotas or these marks, or we're dropping you, it's like, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And I've seen that with every platform already. So it's cool that that's like right out front. We're just doing this, we're going in this direction.
Right.
It's just circling back to, again, like all the other social sites seem to just be kind of like following each other, copy paste this or that. I mean, I look at shorts and reels and TikTok and stuff. It's all just the same stuff. So
Yeah.
it's kind of cool that there's so much unique and so much different. Where did all of that like just come from? Was that something that you were using apps or something and thought we could do this a better way, or did you just have this idea one day, or like how do you even come up with all these things?
Yes and no. So one of the things that I was doing, so I've, like I said, I've been a content creator for like 20 years and I was an influencer for a while.
Hmm.
When I quit my job as an influencer, mental health, like I got sucked into that rat race. I left social media between about 2021 and 2023. When I came back in 23, I found a vastly different landscape, especially on TikTok. And Instagram had changed quite a bit as well. And as a lot of people do when they've left a career, they go into consulting. I went into consulting,
Hmm.
and what I was doing in the consulting realm was helping people who were in and around Hollywood develop personal brands for social media. So it was people who are like celebrity makeup artists or TV writers who were excellent at their job, but they really needed to develop a presence on social media in order to continue growing their brand, and they had no idea how to do that. So I
Yeah.
was working alongside them. So I had a front row seat to some of the things that were going down in Hollywood during 2023 and the first part of 2024. And so what we were seeing was this massive decentralization of entertainment. And, I worked specifically with a celebrity makeup artist who was just feeling like all the jobs were drying up. And it was
Oh.
like, no one's making movies right now. No one's doing anything. And instead of these massive movie studios who've been making movies for a millennia, it's now become a lot of these little upstart independent creators and people who were like, I want to have my own talk show. And so they started filming stuff, they put it on YouTube, and now they have a talk show that's more wildly successful than anything that
Wow.
you would see on daytime television.
Yeah.
And so the direction that I started seeing, and I'm autistic, so I'm excellent with pattern recognition.
Hmm.
And so I was starting to see, okay, if entertainment is rapidly leaving this consolidation of conglomerates in Hollywood, then that kind of represent that like Hollywood machine
Yeah.
and is being decentralized to the masses, where are they going to put it? Like, how do we marry what people are used to, everyday people, right, which is social media and entertainment? And I was like, well, YouTube's doing a decent job at that, but like, are they doing the best job at it?
Right.
What could be better? And so again, it came back to this, like I was seeing BIPOC, queer, and disabled people who were really struggling for visibility on these platforms,
Yeah.
who were really up against the fact that they were posting their lived experiences and being suppressed because maybe it wasn't happy and shiny, or because the platform just simply didn't want them there front and
Yeah.
center. And so that's where that kind of came from, where it was like, okay, we need to create a space that's equitable for all creators, whether you're black, whether you're gay, whether you're into cosplay, whether you're into, romance novels, whether you're into gaming, streaming. All these people very soon are going to be the next wave of entertainment,
Yeah.
especially the esports arena, the gamers. That's massive entertainment that's just starting to be tapped into. How can we create a space for them to thrive, for them to build a personal brand, for them to connect with their communities, to share the things that they love, and to not have to worry about being suppressed because of who they are?
Yeah, for sure. No, I mean, and it's a huge driving factor. We're friends with everybody. We friends and family with all these wonderful people, and it's just kind of like it's hard to see communities being, put down for saying the wrong thing or doing the wrong thing or
Yeah.
being the wrong thing or whatever. And, it just, yeah, I mean, that's a very, very good way to start just an inclusive space, and with the right kind of push behind it too. I
Hmm.
actually, speaking of which, how large has the community grown for Neptune already? I know the Discord was really like building. I mean, I'm sure there's tons of interest behind it.
Yeah, so we've got over 150,000
Oof,
people in our
man.
Discord server right now, which is a beast. And frankly, I could not manage that server by myself if I tried. I have an entire staff of admins and mods and helpers and people that help me run this server and make sure everything stays safe and stays positive and awesome. And so they help me do what I do there. So if you're listening, guys, thank you.
Yeah.
So we've got the Discord, over 150,000 people. We have our TikTok page, which is right around 300,000. We've got our email sign up list, which is over 500,000.
Oof.
So we have a lot of folks who, especially right when we sort of burst onto the scene with some viral videos, which were not intended to go viral. It was an announcement that we were headed to beta,
Yeah.
and we expected maybe 100 signups. We were hoping for like 100, right? Because when you're in the tech industry and you're building, software, you're building an app, you have to claw for those first 100 users. Like you're begging family and friends and people on the street, like, hey, can you download this? Can you try my app? Can you do that? We thought we were going to have to do that. And lo and behold, the response was just insane. And so and we've got large creators with millions of followers who are
Yeah.
like ready to jump in and bring their following over as well. So our traction is pretty unprecedented for a social media platform. There's really not another social media platform who's had the amount of traction that we had pre-market. Like we haven't even hit the app store yet. We hadn't even released beta yet, and we had an insane amount of traction. And that's really what sort of propelled us into the spotlight right alongside these other platforms that people were talking about as a contingency plan for where are we going if TikTok gets banned. Red
Yeah.
Note, Lemonade, Blue Sky, all these other spaces. Our name was getting thrown into the conversation, which was really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it definitely was something that was like a big deal because there's so many creators that I mean, if something gets banned or something shuts down or gets bought out or whatever's going on, I mean, it's going to make a lot of waves. And
Hmm.
word of mouth, goes a long way in the creative field. So having a lot of
Oh
people
yeah.
that are just excited about something. I mean, if you see anything that you're really excited about in this field, it's kind of like, oh, what's going on? What's this?
Hmm.
Do you remember? I don't know what year it was, but there was an app that was originally designed for creators. I think it was like called Hover. I don't know if you've ever heard of that one.
No.
Okay, so this was like one of those apps it was kind of a rival to TikTok, and it was said like this is for creators, specifically content creators on like YouTube or Twitch that want to share clips and gaming stuff. And the whole idea behind it was, it's more geared towards these kind of content creators that, I mean, content is content, art is art. So it was weird at first that it kind of like said, we're going to go specifically towards this section of it. And so I felt a
Hmm.
little strange about that. I was apprehensive. I downloaded the app, and all it ended up morphing into was just kind of like a TikTok light thing, where, again, just another one of these copy paste things. It sounded like a good idea. It was sold. It was just, run into the ground essentially, and now it doesn't exist anymore. And I
Yeah.
think that's the only like feedback I've heard from anybody I've talked to this app about. It was just kind of like, well, I hope it doesn't go the way Hover does. I don't think it will because it seems a lot more, one, thought out, and two, diverse. It's not just like this is a small section of a small section of creators. It's like, no, this is
Right.
open to anybody and anything. Um,
Hmm.
is there a specific video format or type of content you guys are going to have on the app, or is it just kind of open to really anything?
I mean, it's open to anything. We're starting with video content. At some point over the summer, we're going to add photo content
Oh,
in there
nice.
as well, the ability to upload photos. Eventually, we'll also have audio file uploads. So if you wanted to host a podcast there, or if you're like super big into ASMR or you're an indie musician, you can host your stuff there. I think, in terms of the types of content that we want to see, I think because, like I said, what we were seeing when we came into this project with the decentralization of Hollywood was that content creators like UGC is going to be the future of entertainment. And
Hmm.
so while we're excited for that shift to happen, it's not really something you can force. You
Right.
can't say, well, if you're coming to this platform, you have to make high quality entertainment quality content and it must be over 10 to 15 minutes
Yeah.
long and it must, like you can't really do that.
Yep.
So we're going to allow people to post what they want to post. I think at this point, love it or hate it, brain rot content will always have a place in
Oh
our
yeah. Yeah.
society.
There's no chance.
And it's that stuff that you're doom scrolling while you're sitting in a waiting room at the doctor's office because there's nothing else to do. Maybe
Yep.
you're nervous, you have to get a blood draw. So you're just on there looking at brain rot content. That's always going to be there. But I think the way that we're structuring the platform and the way that we're going to continue to roll out features is going to be primarily in support of the creators who are striving for a high quality entertainment value type media
Yeah.
on their stuff.
Yeah, for sure. And that, I mean, that's good because it's nice that there is a vision and a direction and everything with that. I think it's cool to have that cohesion with your creators as well. I mean, anybody that gets on the platform, the idea of having all those forms of content too in one spot is just so, like, I didn't even think about that. Like, to have
Mhm.
photos, audio files, all that. I don't know there's a place where all that can kind of live in harmony anywhere right now, really. And every like all these platforms are trying, and I know YouTube has tried to do this whole community thing, and it's just like it seems like an afterthought of an afterthought at this point. So I like that
Yeah.
there's a lot more kind of forward thinking with that too.
Yeah, I
Um,
think the only platform that really rivals that in terms of the breadth of types of content that it
mhm.
allows is Substack, actually.
Oh, okay.
But what Substack is missing is that discoverability. You have to really know what you're looking for when you go to Substack, or you kind of rely on their suggestive algorithm when they email you thinking, oh, like maybe you'll be interested in this Substack or have you thought about this one? It's not like the discoverability factor is really low on
Yeah.
Substack as
Yeah.
compared to TikTok, YouTube, etc. But that's probably would be our main competitor in terms of the breadth of type of content that we allow.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Makes sense. Speaking of discoverability, though, the customizable like discovery and search features and everything, where you can the sliders were really cool. I thought
Hmm.
that was a really
Yeah,
interesting feature. I don't know if you want to talk about that at all, but
sure.
like where that kind of, I mean, I think we can all see where that inspiration came from. If you scroll on any of these apps, a lot of times, I mean, you're just going to be forced to see whatever they want you to see. So
Mhm.
I think this gives you a lot more control. But yeah, I'd love to hear more about this.
Yeah, so it's really funny because in the very early days of starting to build this platform, we had recorded on Zoom every single meeting that we had.
Hmm.
And that was just so that some of the team members who, we couldn't all get on the same schedule right away could go back and watch the meeting that they had missed. And so we actually have a recording of the meeting where Chris and I were sitting there having the algorithm
Oh,
discussion, which felt like this big beast of a thing where it's like, you can talk all day about like, oh, let's build this and let's do this and let's have this feature. The algorithm was like the meat and potatoes of it
yeah.
because that's what people have come to rely on and expect for discoverability. And my vision, it's really funny. And Chris, one of the first things he said to me was, I really love that you're not a Silicon Valley person. He's like, because you think outside the box. And I was like, Chris, I don't know what the bounds of the box is because I'm not a Silicon Valley person. So I
Right.
will ask for the most. You just have to tell me what's technically possible. And so we were in this meeting talking about the different ways that we could actually offer a customized algorithm. And that phrase, customizable algorithm, came up, and we both were just like, dude, what if we did this? And then
Yeah.
it was like, what should the format be? Should it be like, and we were trying to figure out like how we could visualize this in a way that people would understand. Because again, an algorithm is a math equation. So you can't just pop up a giant equation on the screen and say, adjust the variables here. You have to translate it into a way that people are easily going to be able to look at that and go, oh, I see what I'm doing here. I'm actually toggling this up, meaning I'm only going to see things from the people that I follow. I'm only going to see, this type of content. And so that's kind of where that idea came from is like, how could we translate what's in here to something that people could understand
Yeah.
really easily, like a very non-technical person? And so essentially the way that it works is the algorithm has two, I call it like two lanes, and they run parallel to each other. So we have the autopilot lane, which functions very much like TikTok's algorithm. And that's the algorithm that I spent time with the dev team this last weekend fleshing out and designing
Hmm.
the architecture for that. And so it's going to run based off of your engagement. It's going to run based off of, how long you watched the video. Did you swipe away quickly? Did you mute the video? Did you like, there's a
Yeah.
lot of things that it takes into account to build your For You page brick by brick, as they say. Or you can toggle it to manual mode. Now, when it's in manual mode, it's going to take what you have in auto mode and allow you to customize that further or switch it up completely if you want to. So I don't know. I'm sure you're on Tumblr. You're familiar with Tumblr, yeah?
Yeah. Yep.
So the onboarding experience with Tumblr, you set your username, you go through the process, and then it says pick 3 to 5 hashtags or 5 to 10 hashtags so that it gives the algorithm kind of like a kick in the pants on Tumblr to say, this is generally what this person's interested in. Best of luck to you. And so we're going to have something really similar, but the difference there is when you go into the algorithm slider panel, you can open your categories tab and you can see those hashtags, or you can even add to the hashtags there. And say you've signed up to see Pokemon, you've signed up to see cooking, you've signed up to see F1 racing, you've signed up to see these things, right?
Yeah.
You can go in there, add those hashtags in, and if you're in the mood and all you want to see is F1 racing, you can toggle that all the way up, and that is the only thing that it will show you. And if you're like, oh, I want to, I'm in the mood for like Hope Core, so I'm going to turn up, live music, kittens, military
Yeah.
homecomings, right? You just want to have like some feel good cries. You can customize that, whatever. In the future, hopefully the nearer future, by the end of the year, you'll be able to save these as templates, and then you'll
Okay.
be able to name them. And then the really cool thing after that is you'll be able to trade them with people. You'll be able
Oh,
to share them
wow.
with people.
Oh,
And
man.
so one of the coolest things about that is I've always wondered, as I'm sure a lot of people have, about your favorite content creators or celebrities or influencers. What does their For You page look like? I
Right?
always wonder when Lady Gaga opens TikTok, what the hell is on her For
Yeah.
You page? What
Yeah,
does she
right.
see? And now you'll be able to know because she could share that as a template.
Oh, that is so cool. Yeah, I love that. I see, and that's why it's just so remarkable how all of this kind of came about. I mean, there it just more and more that Neptune is doing, and the vision behind it is just like, wow. And how are these things like it always blows my mind. See, I love creativity. I love ideas. I love to see what kind of sparks that passion with people. And I mean, it's amazing to me what people can come up with. I always just kind of like, every now and then something will come to me and I'll be like, oh, I better make a video on that. Or, I'll write this
Yeah.
down and pretend like I can record a song a day or two, whatever. But it's like, man, it's just so cool when I see these ideas happen. Um,
Yeah.
let's see. So the no follower thing, and
Hmm.
like the kind of like hidden metrics, it's it's so funny that that's kind of been like a big thing on Neptune, because I remember probably 6 or 7 months ago I was talking to somebody about like, man, it'd be great if your favorite creators, they started from literally zero and have ballooned up to where they are now.
Yeah.
Follower count, discoverability, just the luck of the draw kind of plays into that a lot. But there's so many
Yeah.
great creators that maybe just don't have the time to get out there and, find all these followers, or maybe their video just hasn't gone viral yet, or whatever the case may be. So I think that the metrics are so interesting with Neptune, and it's going to give a lot more people a chance to be discovered and to get their creativity out there versus just, hoping for the best like a lot of these other platforms. How's that going to look for the app and everything? And what do you have kind of planned for the metrics, like what's going to be visible, what's not visible, that kind of thing?
Yeah. So it's funny because when we were going to build the algorithm, some of these things that get weighted on other platforms is how many followers do they have? If they have a certain amount of followers, they essentially give you a behind the scenes boost. If you have over 1 million followers, your content automatically gets pushed out to a higher group of people. And what we see then is this disparity between content creators who are legitimately trying to create quality content, and maybe it's resonating with their audience, but like you said, they don't have the time to be chronically online
Right.
like some of these other content creators do. And so their stuff just doesn't get pushed in the same way. And so with the ghost metrics option, first of all, on the algorithm, we don't even care how many followers you have. If you're showing up and you're creating good content that's getting engagement and that's getting traction with your audience, your stuff's going to get pushed.
Right.
So we don't really take follower count into account there. In terms of the ghost metrics, you'll have the ability as a creator to turn your follower count on or off. It doesn't have to show. But if you have it on, it's not going to be the first thing that people see when they go to your profile. You'll actually have to scroll down a little bit in order to see the number of followers someone has. And that was simply born of a couple different things. The first one being we all have this like subconscious bias. And it doesn't mean that we're terrible people. This is just the way our brains work. When we see a high number next to something or next to someone's photo, we automatically assign a value to it.
Right.
And
Right.
so when we see someone with 5 million followers, in our mind, our threshold for following is much lower. We think, oh yeah, they've got 5, I'll follow. Versus somebody who maybe only has 5 followers. You're like,
Right.
maybe not. Other people really didn't find them worthy of a follow. So for those creators who are just starting out, or for those creators who are just like kind of hipster about it, and they're like, I don't believe in followers, man, and I want you to see like how many followers I have or don't have, they can hide that completely.
Yeah.
But we also understand there are content creators who really do get brand deals and who really do create an audience, and a big part of that is those vanity metrics. So instead of prioritizing that on the profiles and putting that at the top where that's like the first thing people see, it will be placed a little bit farther down, just so that when people come to your profile, they're immediately getting a sense of who you are, not how popular you are. And that's kind of the difference there.
Yeah. Yeah. And the brand deals was kind of the thing too, because it was like, a lot of people on these sites can just kind of buy followers or bot their follows or whatever. So not having a big priority
Yeah.
on that, and more priority again on like the creative side of things, is interesting. And then just how does the brand deals or the monetization work in accordance to that? Do you have a vision for like how that'll all work out? Or I've always wondered that too, just the way the metrics work and
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah, so for brand deals specifically, I mean, a lot of brand deals are conducted off platform,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you have a brand like Clorox reach out to a creator from their email that they got on the profile because they saw that this creator was making really successful videos about cleaning. And so they reached out outside the platform. They conduct their business outside the platform. And the creator comes in, tags them, creates a certain amount of videos. They have to disclose that it's an ad or that it's sponsored. They kind of go about their business. We don't really see any of that transaction. We're not really a part of that. So that will still definitely be a thing. I think any social media platform where, especially with video content, that's going to be a thing from now on. And that's totally fine. In terms of what's sort of available to creators monetization wise within the platform itself, it's actually going to have a structure very similar to like OnlyFans or
Mm-hmm.
Patreon, where the creator, it's like a direct to audience monetization. the platform, we don't have a creator fund for several reasons. The first of which is, again, money, because
Right.
like TikTok, for example, when they have their creator fund was because they had several years worth of revenue to sort of budget and save for that. But they also had a massive influx of cash from investors who said, well, if we do this, we're going to make more money ultimately
Hmm.
because it's an investment in the community. And that sounds great on the front end. The problem was that they had to devise a way to distribute these funds. And so instead of saying, each of these niches appreciate different types of content and they kind of play by different rules, they said, overall, these are the metrics you have to hit across the entire platform in order to qualify for monetization.
Mm.
And like any business who's always going to put themselves first, they made sure to pay out as little as possible
Right.
to most of the creators. So a lot of creators, myself included, I've got direct experience with the TikTok Creator Fund and we are ops for life. But like, so the monetization is direct to audience, meaning that you can collect monetization and you can collect money from live streams,
Mm.
from tips, from subscriptions. So, on YouTube, how you can create your own playlists and you can have you can organize your content into playlists.
Yeah. Oh,
So
yeah.
we're going to have that. We're going to have that, but instead of calling it playlists, we're calling it channels.
Okay.
So within, Andy Havoc's Neptune profile, you can have a channel where it's all, replays of, my favorite video game. And you can hide that behind a $3 a month subscription so that way you're constantly populating that. It's very much like Patreon. And then
Interesting.
people can
Okay.
buy into that subscription and they'll get access to that pool of content. And then, like I said, tips and live streams. So those are going to be the three biggest ways that creators monetize on the platform to start with. We will be doing an ad revenue share with creators at some point, hopefully very, very soon, but it does require a little bit of work on our end, on the back end, because what we want to do is allow people to opt in and watch an ad on behalf of a creator. So
Hmm.
if I'm scrolling through and I see a piece of your content, I'm like, God, I love that video. That's hilarious. Or that really made me think. Or like, I just want to support my favorite creator, Andy, but I don't have any money. I don't get paid till Friday. I've got nothing in my pocket right now and nothing I can spend. I can opt in and watch a 15 to 20-second ad and you will get the ad revenue from that
Okay.
split with the platform. So that's a model that has been done before, but it's not currently being done. It was done on a platform. Gosh, I can't remember the name of the platform now. I think it came out about 5 years ago, but they had tried something similar. And so when we kind of A/B tested this and asked our Discord server, like, what do you guys think about this? They were like, mind blown. This is
Yeah.
freaking fantastic. Nobody's got any money. And to most people, time is pretty free or it's very cheap to them. So they have no problem sitting and watching a few ads in order to support their favorite creators without having to spend money.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the control they will feel over it is a lot better than these platforms that just throw ads at you out of nowhere. I mean, I
Yeah.
have no problem watching someone's video if it's like a sponsored thing, like that's cool.
Hmm.
But when I'm scrolling and it's just like, is this an ad? Is this real? Like, what am I looking at here? That's where it gets a little kind of weird. And then, where does
Yeah.
that go? It just vanishes essentially. And
Hmm.
also, I didn't even think about this, but having all of that control over like the built-in, Patreon like features and everything, that is really, really cool because it's very difficult to go platform to platform. So like if you're on Twitch, everybody's just there because they want to be on Twitch. So saying like, hey,
Right.
if you want more, just go over here real quick, make an account over here also, and then support that to support this, and it's just like it just gets a
Yes.
little all over the place, So that's
Yeah.
really, really it's just another one of those ideas that just kind of, I mean, like you said, my mind is blown too. I mean, I'm like out here, just like wow, incredible stuff. Yeah, I just I'm very excited. I can't even
Uh,
collect my thoughts on all this. I really appreciate you
Of
coming up with this
course.
idea and pushing it the way you have. Is there anything else that you wanted to touch on with the app or anything in general?
Not necessarily with the app. I will say we are, so as we kind of talked about a little bit earlier, we're really trying to be very choosy on who we climb into bed with, so to
Hmm.
speak, in terms
Yeah.
of investors and things. And so we've actually turned down a few because they were not a good fit. They weren't going to uphold our vision. And this is something we're really not willing to budge on.
Right.
And so, because of that, we're still very bootstrapped on this project. And so, we've had a lot of people asking, can I invest? How can I support you? Can I donate? So, we've set up a Substack and we are going to be launching that Substack next Tuesday.
Okay.
And it's called The C Suite Life. And I'll send you the link, Andy, so
Yeah,
that you
please.
have it. But there's going to be a free tier. There's going to be the regular podcast called The C Suite Life. And so for free, you guys will have access to the podcast. But then for the paid version, you'll have access to the after party podcast, which
Oh,
is when we
okay.
keep the microphone and the camera on and we get
Yes.
into some like really uncouth things that we're hoping investors don't ever pay to listen to because they
Yeah,
probably don't want to hear
yeah.
it. It's not going to paint us in the most professional light. But it's the stuff people really want to know. It's the stuff people really want to hear. And we've set up like an anonymous, like an NGL, like anonymous questions thing. So people can ask like the most outrageous questions and
Okay.
we'll answer them on the podcast. So that's going to be a quick way for us to monetize, for us to be able to pay to get ourselves through the beta phase and to the App Store launch and to cover some of those initial startup expenses. So for people who are like, how can we support? How can we, jump on and help make this vision a reality? It's already a reality. It's just getting to be a very expensive reality right
Yeah.
now. Substack is an excellent way to show that support.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, that's actually really good information also, and I can definitely link that not just in the video and everything, but we'll have that going in the Twitch channel as well. So if you guys are listening on YouTube or wherever you're going to hear this, over on the Twitch channel, we'll have the live link and everything, as well as in the description of all these videos. So definitely check that out. I mean, there's a great group of people behind this. I've definitely watched and seen a lot of really fun moments as well. So it's well worth it. I mean, it's content for content. It's incredible. I love it. But yeah, thank
Yeah.
you so much for that, and thank you so much for everything really today. This was excellent. I cannot wait for just everything to move forward and the updates and all this. This is really exciting.
Awesome. And we'll have to have you as a guest on our
Oh,
podcast.
please, yeah, anytime. I'd love it.
Awesome.
All right. Well, thank you all for listening. Ashley, thank you again for doing this, and just y'all keep creating, keep doing your thing. Keep looking out for updates. We will definitely, be excited about all the noise that we're making here. Thank you all again, and I will see you all later.
Sounds good. Thanks, Andy.